Hello, friends. It's John Klein, third of episode 179 of Shadow and Flame of Magic, the premier Kitty Pryde Lockheed and Magic podcast. And today we're going to review Magic number 5, Wolverine and Kitty Pryde 2, and deep dive into Wolverine First Class 18, and then review the rest of the books that came out last week. So let's go. But first, the reason we were going to review Wolverine First Class because the legendary writer Peter David passed away, and just want to do an issue to memorize his passing. And then, in a funner note, not funner, in a more fun note, they finally revealed the DC Marvel crossover, which is going to be two parts: Deadpool and Batman by Zeb Wells and Greg Calupo. And then Grant Morrison's going to do Batman and Deadpool with Mara as the artist. So it's not the crossover I was getting super excited about, but it makes sense. Batman's their popular person. Deadpool is Deadpool. And so it would have been more fun if it was Wolverine. Sure. I would immediately get more on board. But it's a Marvel DC crossover. They haven't done it in, I don't know, like a decade or two. And so, I'm gonna get it. Walker D's interested in it, so they got us hooked for, you know, two copies of it. So, but that's pretty exciting. Now let's get into Magic number 5. And spoilers for all the comics discussed. They are in Causeway Coast, Ireland, as Magic is being very passive aggressive of Danny because she clearly overheard Danny talk to Cal about how they gotta watch Magic at all times. And I love how this is like an action-packed issue, but we get plenty of Team Supreme just working together, and they're working perfectly well together, but there's some hostility there, rightfully so. And Danny's trying to talk to her. Danny knows clearly what happened, and so they just keep talking their feelings out as they defeat Luminel's goons. Then once they do that, Luminol himself shows up and tries to confront them. And then we get this amazing two-page sequence where Luminol puts a dome around him and Magic's inside the dome and Danny's trying to get in. And then Magic decides to have a chat with herself, with her Dark Child persona. And there's this great moment where she's like, "Who is there to direct her anger against? I've imprisoned you for years, shackled you to the deepest depths of myself. Why would I direct my fire at myself? Myself, I'm not you. I did not ask for you. You leech off me and corrupt everything good in my life. Is it really how you see me after all these years? Yes, it's true. I was born in limbo. You were not. For that purpose, Ilonra, was I created to be a tool for others? No, I'm a tool to protect you. Yet you choose to suppress rather than confront. You do not allow me to shoulder those darker memories. After all these years, your mental barriers are fully down, and I am one message for you, Ilonra. I am you. And this reminds me how great that New Mutants, the Trials of Magic, and how she just made peace with her inner child, and now here she is making peace with her darker demon who's just been trying to help her out, giving her that power boost whenever she needs it. And so, with a kiss to the forehead, she forgives her, thus forgiving herself, and now she's ready to confront Lumino. And we get this amazing splash page of ultimate magic that has armored arm, bat wings coming out of her, her tail, horns. It's just like the ultimate Dark Child. Then instead of working with Danny, she decides that now she has a power scale. She defeats Lumino pretty easily. And since she's made peace with one demon, she can actually take on a second demon and figures she would just absorb Lumino. And as in the middle of doing the spell, realizes that she's sacrificed enough and made peace with her enough because she's and I do wish we got more of Cal in these last 5 issues to make this moment bigger, but also I'm okay with this. But he jumps into the spell and then he absorbs Luminol, which I imagine it's going to be a story down the line about. a friend turned enemy. And he's like, I made this sacrifice for you and you don't even appreciate it. And now, her friend becomes the enemy. And it's like, well, shoot. And Danny's very much annoyed with her as they could have came up with, and this has been a theme the past couple of issues about how if you just communicated, we could have came up with a better solution. And then we get Midnight, the factory, X-Men HQ, Morrow, Alaska, and Scott's waking up. He sees Magic in the kitchen, and she's clearly down. So then he knows immediately what to do because they are I don't know, the Cyclops Magic best like friendship is like top tier X friendships. Like it's like Kitty, Magic, Kitty, Lockheed, Kitty, Nightcrawler, Magic and Danny, Magic and Cyclops. Kitty and Emma, Kitty and Kurt, Kitty and Rachel. That one has some emotions in there. And but I mean, Scott and Ileana are just perfect together. So he grabs the pancake mix, he grabs the milk, he's going to make pancakes. Um, he must make them pretty quickly. I guess pancakes are a thing you make pretty quickly. I've been trying to master eggs over easy and I'm getting pretty big with better at it. I should be treating myself to a bigger pan, but making them right next to each other. I mean, just cut it differently. But yeah, it's been pretty nice. And so he makes her two plates of pancakes. It looks like he gives them both two pancakes each, so that's pretty nice. And then you see that she's been crying. He's like, I really messed up, Scott. I don't know what to do. And next, the Goblin Queen cometh. So such a perfect issue. Get some nice letters from D-Dog and Mallory Harvell and Callie and Michael J. Gallagher. So nice of them to all get letters. And next is Wolverine Kitty Pryde 2, which has Kitty, Miracle, and Logan fighting a giant snow samurai who is there to purge Kitty of all the Ogun influence. And we find out that she doesn't have any Ogun in her, which is odd because Claremont will use that plot of Extreme X-Men Volume 3 where Ogun's has been secretly in her head the whole time. And so it's odd that he would make sure write it so that that's not a possibility for the other storyline. Then again, there's a late Excalibur story where Ogun takes over her body, so maybe, he can purge it here and then recognize that story where he comes right back in. There's ways around it. Then Carmen walks in the room and everyone is pretty much banged up. Kitty's all cut up, Logan's cut up, Miracle, um, she seems fine. Yukio shows up to heal Kitty, who's confused of why she's actually bleeding from the wounds. Then we get some introspection from Logan, and then he hears Miracle is um swimming, and so we just see them in love, which is awesome. They sort of talk about the time Mastermind took over her body, but they're just, enjoying the relationship, and it's a near miss, but they're still together. And Kitty tells Carmen that once she gets fully healed, she can go back to the X-Men, and she's no good to them wounded. And they just have a nice father-daughter chat about just, what she wants from what she wants next. So being an X-Men means a lot. He reconfirms that him and Xavier were in the war together. Then the issue ends a bunch of mini Sentinels from X-Men Gold, but Volume 1, Issue 1. And uh the these Sentinels are led by Ziggy Trask, who you may remember from Chris Claremont's X-Men Forever series, where she was the Trask who was determined to kill the X-Men. And so it's just fun to see all these different branches that Claremont's using. And and we see that she's in her own armor suit with a yellow face mask. So she's clearly the Lightning character we've been seeing on various covers. So yeah, pretty fun issue. And then we have Wolverine First Class, which would have cost you $2.99, is rated A. And back to the credit page here. And you can follow along on my YouTube and or TikTok channel, Jacko SIII. And trying to see where, oh, here we go. The back page. It came out October 2009. Written Identity Crisis, which is fun. Peter David Writer. Artist is Francis Portela. Colorist Jim Karalampidis. Letter production is VC's Joe Camaragna. Covers by Scotty Young, which is awesome. And the issue opens up with Kitty narrating to herself, "Who am I? I don't have an answer to that question, which shouldn't be that big a deal. When you're a teenager, that's when you're supposed to be sorting it all out. That most teenagers aren't geniuses, although I hate to brag, and most teenagers aren't mutants." Because she is a teenage mutant ninja who can phase through solid objects like a ghost. And most teens who are genius mutants aren't members of the X-Men, wondering when something new person's coming after them. Then we see, because she's by the fountain in the front lawn, and then she knocks down Jamie Madrox, who, once knocked down, makes a dupe of himself. And she thinks she's cute, but he's no Colossus, which is like, all right. Which is fun, is later on Siren to be a part of this title, and no, no, no. By 18, Siren's already been in the title, and there's already been some jealousy from Kitty towards Siren, and Siren, of course, had a brief relationship in the beginning with Madrox as well, pretty much they were the only teenagers on that island. And oh, and I picked this issue because of course Peter David, legendary X Factor writer. And I think League of Comic Book Geeks said I had 29 comics of his, and once I looked at all the covers and how many images I had of it, I was like, well, this is clearly the issue to read. And then we see inside that Logan's talking to Jamie Madrox himself, and he's talking about how he wants to hang out here in the mansion as he's in between gigs. And then we see Kitty come in with Madrox, and we find out that the one Logan was talking to is the dupe, who does not want to be reabsorbed as he doesn't want to be murdered. And then there's a fun moment where Logan's like, "Hey, that knife you grabbed is a butter knife." And then Logan says, "For starters, that's a butter knife. You can't stab a guy with a butter knife. It's ridiculous." And she's like, "Not to mention perf, Preyf." And then Logan shoots her a look. She's like, "Because, mixing dairy and meat." And it's like, oh, Peter David finding clever ways of bring out Kitty's Judaism. And then listening to the dupe, she thinks, so sad. He sounds so sad, so desperate. This doesn't seem. And then James just yelling at him like, "You're a dupe. You're nothing. Let me absorb you." And then she takes offense to that because he does seem to be a living person who, with his own free will. So they escape together. They get to like the tree line, and then he Friday chops the back of her neck, knocking her out. And in a very gross panel, decides to kiss her forehead. Where it's like, you don't need to do that. Like, calm down. And Logan and Jamie catch up to Kitty. She wakes up. Forbids her from joining them to New York City. And fun page turn. All three of them are in the car. So clearly, Logan didn't want to have to fight her on the issue. And so they're driving away. And then Kitty's pestering Jamie about, who is it up to you to decide? And Jamie, being the prime Jamie, has the ability to sense his dupes, whereas the dupe does have no idea where Jamie is, so that's why he has to be on the run all the time. And we see the dupe is in a park, just like enjoying a day out. Get this great panel that he's going to get repeated where his hood's down and he's just enjoying the sun. And then they finally get to the city. And there's a visual gag about Howard a Duck's Tale coming to Broadway. And this guy's trying to sell bootleg DVDs in front of a restaurant. And then you can also buy scripts. And he also has rough cuts of videos, which then enrages Wolverine as he's like, "You want rough cuts? I got your rough cut right here. If people want to see movies, they should respect copyright laws. Wait until they're in the theaters, pay their admission, and judge the final product. Anything else is insulting, unfair to the movie makers. Understood?" Which, of course, is a reference to the Wolverine Origins leak. And so Peter David being very timely here. And then we see a lady running up to the dupe, saying because he's wearing his Jamie Madrox classic green suit with the yellow piping, and she's like needing a superhero as her daughter's in a burning building, and so he runs over and grabs her, and then shoves her through the door while the ceiling collapses, which then Kitty rescues the girl properly out of the building. And Logan looks for the dupe, but he is crushed under some debris. And then the dupe says that he tried to be a hero. He shakes Jamie's hand and absorbs him, giving him the memories um of the dupe. And then Jamie, get back to the mansion, and Peter David gives himself a fun foreshadowing as he punches the wall 4 times, making 4 dupes. This. Go out in the world, learn stuff, then come back to me so I can learn what you've learned. I have a lot of not knowing to make up for. Then one of the dupes is like, what if one of us don't want to return? What if I want to change my name to, I don't know, John Madrox to live my own life? I guess I'll have to deal with that when it comes time. Which, of course, is a reference to the priest dupe who goes by John Madrox. So it's like, all right. And then the issue ends with Jamie Madrox lifting down his hood and looking up into the sky. And that's its fun. And that, everyone, was Wolverine First Class number 18. So thanks so much for that. If you have favorite Peter David comics, feel free to find me online at Jacko SII, and I would love to hear all your Peter David thoughts. What else came out last week? Oh yeah, Cable Love and Chrome 5 came out. The final issue of that. Once again, spoilers. And such a fun issue. He goes back in time. He finds Avery, who is Cicada, and so they fight each other throughout time and I suppose space. Which I do wish, with all the different timelines that we came across, that we saw like the moment where Bishop was chasing him through time, just to be like, oh yeah, they crossed paths. But Marvel wisely decided not to remind us of that era. I probably shouldn't be reminding you of that era. And then Cable goes further back in time and just stops the war from happening and goes back to that future. And then turns out Avery is now Dr. Avery, and she's not a soldier anymore, but, well, a doctor. And doesn't recognize him, of course, and he just moves on. Which I feel weird about that, where like you change time, and then and they had an intimate relationship. So now he has that information in his head about what that experience was like, and she doesn't, and that just shows weird to me. But I don't think we're supposed to think about that either. So, but now that we are thinking about it, it's weird, right? Um, then Doom's Division 3, where Karma helps out Sunfire and trying to convince Tiger Division, who's now Doom's Division, to stop assisting Doom and help Sunfire do whatever Sunfire's plot is. And then Tiger Division's boss is White Fox, and she has some type of glowing marble in her mouth that she kisses Sunfire at the end of the issue. So we don't know what's going to happen there, but I don't know. It's a pretty solid issue. Not enough karma for my taste. And then she tries to fight an android guy, and so she just has to use her wits about her because she can't possess his body. So that was a fun little way of showing karma can't just defeat anyone by possessing them. Oh. Then we have Giant Size X-Men number 1, which sort of been started a Miss Marvel run in my head where actually Cerebro Connor interviewed the Hive Mind and had that, and he referenced how he was on a special episode of Generation M where they reviewed the Marvels and all six episodes of Miss Marvel's TV show, and then a bonus episode with Wilson, her one of her co-creators. And I was like, oh man, what a great! And the whole podcast is done from like a point of view of a Pakistani American panel of like scholars or South Pacific people. And so I like marathon all eight of those episodes, and so I'm just like in a Miss Marvel kick now. But it was a pretty fun issue. So Miss Marvel goes back to Giant Size X-Men because there's a future Legion, who I usually try to never call him Legion, but David Haller has died, and so his spirit has left the body, but the body's been taken over by the personalities, and they have decided to go back in time and destroy, cause madness. And it opens up with him arguing with Mother Ascani, who we don't see. But, Mother Ascani, of course, being Rachel Summers, existing in more than one timeline, but maybe it's okay because this is a future timeline of the same Earth. I don't think we're supposed to worry about it too much. So he goes back in time. He somehow brings Miss Marvel along with him. So on his way back to Giant Size X-Men, which is confusing as this is Giant Size X-Men. But I think it's like the fourth Giant Size X-Men #1. So, all right. Um, He hits the present, grabbing Miss Marvel, and then both of them go to giant size. Uh, Scott immediately recognizes her, but doesn't get all of his memories. But it's just nice, I guess, that somehow seeing Miss Marvel makes him go, "Oh yeah, Miss Marvel. I instinctively know to trust you." And then Xavier's like, "Who are you, child of the future?" But he doesn't read her mind, but he reads Scott's mind to register that she's from the future. So it's like, all right, Xavier's good job showing some restraint. You're not quite the jerk. Except, of course, this is giant size X-Men. So by this time, Scott's come back from Krakoa. Xavier has essentially murdered Dr. Mara McTaggart's um, original Muir Island X-Men team, which I guess she knew about already that time. And it's very complicated, these retro series is, but done with a present day flair and then with present day characters. It's very complicated. I don't know what subgenre this would be. I guess it's a time travel story, right? And which they did point out about how this is the 50th anniversary of Giant Size X-Men. It's the 45th anniversary of the Dark Phoenix saga, the 30th anniversary of Age of Apocalypse, and the 20th anniversary of House of M, which explains why the next issues are all those stories because it's a celebration of all X-Men content. So I'm like, oh, like I love that. But also, once they had Lockheed on the cover of House of Giant Size House of M, I was like, well, I'm hooked. Oh, and they also reference how Age of Apocalypse is taking place the night before the big battle. So AOA Shadowcat should be at that in that story. So I'm pretty excited that I pre-ordered that issue through DCBS. Hashtag not a sponsor, but would love a sponsorship. Um, oh, so they go to Krakoa. Xavier tries to introduce the team, but she's quick to be like, "Oh yeah, I know all you people." And she references Sunfire's dad. And he's like, "How do you know about my dad?" And I do like the idea about how this is a famous moment in time, like the cast of the all new, all different X-Men. So yeah, she's aware of the significance of it, as opposed to like Dark Phoenix Saga, that might be more of a X-Men storied adventure that maybe they don't tell every single person of what happened. So she sees Krakoa and this immediately talks to him in a language that I would have sworn was the language Doug taught it, but sure, why not? And instead of letting Polaris and Storm lift it into space, as well as Gabriel and Darwin's bodies, And there's zero reference to that adventure, so it's like, all right. But they're telling a fun story. Why tell a darker edge of the story? And um, so she uses her powers to send it into space, which is a combination of her mutant powers and her inhuman powers. And then Legion attacks her, and they have a quick fight that ends with them dramatically on the day Dark Phoenix is happening, and Jean's trying to kill the X-Men on their yard. So it's like, all right. So it's a pretty, it was a good adventure. I liked it. And there's a backup where Xavier apparently went to another character who has the ability to level up people's powers. And she's supposed to be the big dramatic villain, but it's like, all right. So he went to six different people before getting the all new, all different X-Men team, but it's like, sure, whatever. Rogue Savage Land 5 with Zella Dane. And there's a fun, great Magneto Rogue content where like they're talking about their feelings and everything. And then there's just a bunch of like Zella Dane plot that I'm like, you sort of losing me on this. But um as the issue's concluding, Rogue thinks about all of her friends, and we get a little panel of her and Kitty Pryde, where I'm like, hey, there's Kitty. And I strained my eyes to see if Lockheed was next to her, but I think it was just her curly hair. So I was like, all right. But on the computer screen, it was like enhance, enhance. So decent series, but um, I didn't connect to the Savage Land stuff outside of Kazar and Sabu. But it's a good adventure. And then lastly, we have Uncanny X-Men 15, which is Dark Artery 3 of 4. Um, no Ember in it, but Kaliko, who I guess is just Becca's code name now, that she's not sharing it with Ember, which I guess makes sense now retroactively. And then she kills, and so they're in the underground base where Lady Hindry is now Lady Henrietta, I think is how you pronounce it. And it's comic, so we won't ever really know. And Deathstream's gonna go into this portal to maybe become the new host to replace her. And then everyone has to wear cool goth costumes, which if Marvel Legends wanted to make an easy $100,000, I bet they could sell a master box set of all these new designs that David Marquez does develop. But essentially they're all dressed as like black versions of their current costumes. And Kaliko tells Jitter she loves her, which surprises Jitter, but also Jitter's on board. So I love that for those two. Like I was already on the Becca train, and now I'm just like, and I was already coming around Jitter, but Becca liking Jitter makes me like Jitter. So that's all working. Ransom's committed to making sure Deathstream doesn't make any hasty decisions. And then Rogue warms up, is mad at Gambit, but wants to rescue the kids. And so the issue ends with all the X-Men showing up at the portal door, and they're in cool X-Men or gothic looks. And so yeah, we'll see where the final issue takes us. And let's see what comics are coming out next week. Oh yeah, it's another big week. So we have Ultimate Wolverine Sticks, and he's supposed to be Kitty Pryde's on one of the or Catherine Pryde is on one of the covers, so we'll see if she's in the book itself. We have Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion 1, which I'm really hoping Magic or Catherine Pryde is in that. Then we have X-Men 17 with Magic, ideally. She should be. And then the 3K X-Men team. We have Laura Kinney Wolverine 7 with her and Helgen teaming up in this alternate timeline or whatever, psychotic episode she's having, which I like to call their ship name Helverine, which is awkward as Helverine 7's coming out. Storm 9's coming out. That's part of the Thunder War story arc. There's Marvel Knights World to Come by Christopher Priest and Joe Quesada. That's under the Marvel Knights umbrella, so we'll see if it's purely a Black Panther story or does it have any X-Men content? Otherwise, I have zero interest in this. And speaking of zero interest in things, Imperial 1 comes out, and I have no interest in that unless Xavier dies in it. And even then, I'm just going to shrug my shoulders back, sure, that happened. But yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion, I'm mostly just interested to see how the Ultimate Wolverine X-Men casts, if they appear, which I want to say the X-Men are in issue 5, I think, or whatever the August issue number is. But yeah, should be fun. And there's 8 titles, so if I had to do top 4, bottom 4, it'd probably be Ultimate Wolverine, Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion, X-Men 17, and Laura Kinney Wolverine 7. I was really loving Storm. And I still do, but I mean, I guess it's the problem with story arcs where it's like, oh, all the Thunder Gods are teaming up. Like, it doesn't quite excite me. And so, it's like, well, I'm going to keep reading it, but I'm not checked out completely. But, it's entertaining. I just, I'm not a cosmic guy, hence the Imperial lack of interest. But, I'm sure it's fine. It'd be fun. All right, everyone. So I'm gonna post 4 images of Wolverine First Class on the podcast's socials at SNFWM, and I will talk at you next time. But thanks so much for listening. Tell a friend as we're trying to grow the podcast again. All right, everyone. Bye.